Hi, now we will discuss about Spark UI in depth. We will understand about each and every tab in the Spark UI. We will also understand what is relationship between an application, job, stage, task, and we will also understand the relationship between the code we write and how we can use Spark UI to understand the execution in more detail and get some more insights so that we can debug the code, improve the performance, and do so many things. So let's get started. So here is my Databricks workspace. And before we start, one thing I want to call out is that if we are using the free edition in Databricks and we run any PySpark code, so here we don't get the URL of the Spark UI because it is currently not supported. If we use the all-purpose compute, which is available with the paid version of Databricks, then that URL is available here. So to use it for free, what I have done is I have set up PySpark in my local in VS Code, and it works very similar to Databricks notebooks, and you can set it up very easily. If you ask simply ChatGPT like how I can set up or run PySpark code in my local, it will give you all the detailed steps. So let's say if it is ready. So first of all, as we are running it in local, so we start by creating a Spark session, and in Databricks a Spark session is available by default. We don't need to create it. After creating a Spark session, automatically the Spark UI will be available on this URL like localhost. It means it is running in my local. And currently we can see that because I have started this session just now, we don't have any jobs, any stages yet because we have not run anything. So next what we will do is we will create two dummy data frames. So this is some static data I'm using, and using this data it is just creating two data frames here. One with the name employee and another one with the name salary. So after creating this data frame, we are doing a inner join on both the data frames. So I'm joining here the employee and the salary data frames based on employee ID and doing a inner join and creating another data frame here. So far we can see if I refresh it, I will not see any job. And what it means is that so far it has not started processing anything because of Spark lazy evaluation. Because so far these are all transformations we are doing. There is no action we have specified. Once we will use any action, then only the job will be triggered. Next, we will do a cache here. So cache, it stores the data frame in the memory of Spark. It shall be used whenever we want to use the same data frame again and again, so that it does not reload or recalculate it. We will discuss cache and persist in more detail after this. But for now, just understand that it stores the data frame in memory. That's what it does. And then if we do this dot show, that's where the actual action will happen. So this show, it is action because now it need to show us the output. And this is where it will trigger the required jobs. So if we go to the Spark UI, if I refresh it now, we will see like currently there is one job which is active, and there is another job which is which is completed. So this is where the jobs are triggered, and now it has completed the task and shown me the output. If I refresh it again, so here we can see that it had to run 4 jobs just to do this join. So now let's understand in some detail what exactly is meant by a job, stage, task, all these. So whatever code that we write, that is considered a Spark application. So basically we want to do some work in an application, and to run any application it will create multiple jobs. Like in our example we saw that it has created 4 jobs. So for any application it will create multiple jobs. And to execute any job, it will break down each job into multiple stages. We will see these stages also in Spark UI as well. So each job, it is broken down into multiple stages. and at particular stage, to complete that chunk of work, it create multiple tasks, and task is something that is run parallelly on multiple executors. So this is how the breakdown works. Like Spark creates a job, and job is broken down into multiple stages, and for each stage it run multiple tasks in on the executors. So that's how the relationship works. And to store all these relationships, Spark created a graph in its like memory, and this graph, it is called as DAG, or directed acyclic graph. And this graph stores all these relationships, like overall what constitutes a job, and in the job which all stages are there, like stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, and each stage can include multiple steps in it, and then all those steps will be done parallelly by running multiple tasks. So this is how logically the relationship happens in Spark. Now let's understand it through the Spark UI. So here in our example, we just did the join of two data frames, and it had to run these 4 jobs. So if we go back there, so the best place to start in terms of Spark jobs or Spark UI, it is this SQL tab, not directly in terms of the jobs. If we go to the SQL, we can see that in total we have done 3 operations. One, it is create or replace temp view. Another one is also the same. And for these two, we can see how much time it took and the job IDs associated. For these two, there was no job created. That's why we don't see the job IDs. And what these two belong is this line. So we have registered these data frames as a temporary view so that we can use in SQL if required. But we are not doing any action on top of this, so there is no job triggered for these. And the show action that we triggered here, this was the action. So that is where this particular ID is created for this query. And for this ID or query, there were 4 jobs triggered. That's how to understand this. And in total, all those 4 jobs took 25 seconds to execute. Now if I click this, this is where we will see the DAG created here. And in general, we can see lot of information here in this single DAG. So let's go step by step. So in this step, what it is doing is, it is saying scan existing RDD. So it is scanning the RDD, or like one of the data frame that we had mentioned. And in this black box, we can see that it is taking the columns employee ID and name here. And here it is taking employee ID, salary and department, basically all the available columns. And then it is applying some filter saying employee ID is not null. Here also employee ID not null, because these are being used for join. So it is removing nulls from these by default, even though we have not specified. Then comes this exchange state, and this is where lot of data is available. So exchange means like some shuffling is happening, and this is where it is trying to do some parallel operation. So the data which it is reading, it will parallelize it so that it can perform the next operation separately. And in the next part, we can see that it is doing a sorting of data. So it is sorting the left side, it is also sorting the right side, and then it is doing a sort merge join here. So this is one type of join, and because these are like both are small and both are like based on a single column, so it will first sort both of them and then do the join. So this way it will be quick. And at each of the stage, we can also see how many records are available. So here we can see 5 records, here also we can see 5 records. And after joining, we can see that it is the 3 records it is returning. And after that, we can see that it is projecting the columns, required columns only, which are employee ID, name, city, and city, salary and department. So these columns it is selecting after the join operation. and after that it is storing that data in the cache, like we were doing the cache operation, and then it is returning the results and providing as output. So this is how, like, at a high level this DAG looks like. And if we want, if we toggle this button, we can see more statistics also, which can help us to understand it even further. If I minimize this plan visualization, there is another section, details, and this is where we see another type of explain plan. So this is like the same plan but in shown in a different way. This is not much user friendly, so the first one is always better. Now coming to these jobs, so it has triggered these 4 jobs. Okay, so if we go one by one, we can see in that, but this is the particular job, it has this one stage. If I click this stage, it has these many tasks. So in total it has 16 tasks. So even though we had only 5 records, but it is trying to do all those in parallel, and that's where it has triggered all these tasks. But it is not mandatory that if every task it will do something. Some of the tasks may be skipped also directly, and that is what we can see here, that in 5 of them there is some shuffling happening and some writing of the record. That means like reading from the input and then putting into the executor. That is what is happening out of this task, and in other tasks these are blank, so nothing is happening. So that's how the relationship work. So this was one job, completed job. In the job ID 0, we have this one stage. In this one stage, we had the 16 tasks. That's how it worked. And if I go to the job screen, so this job 0, this is something we saw just now. Similarly, this job 1, it will be reading the other table. So this is also triggering 16 tasks, and around 4 or 5 of them will have some reading. So this is also about reading the data. That's what this job is doing. And if we see this one, so this is where the main operation has been triggered. And in total it had created 3 stages here. So 2 of them it had skipped them because internally if it thinks that is not required, so it will just skip them. And one stage it completed that. And if we come here, so we can see that it has triggered 200 tasks to complete this particular stage. So whenever shuffling happens, so by default Spark will create 200 partitions, and that's how it will try to join different tables. And in the similar fashion, because in our case the number of records are not so many, so lot of tasks will not be doing anything, only few of them will be doing the actual join. But that is how the relationships works. So that's how the relationship works, like job, stages, and multiple tasks. Next, let's understand the storage part. So because we had mentioned the dot cache operation, it has stored that data frame into memory. So this is the memory, and in the memory it will always say RDD, not as a data frame, because data frames are internally stored as RDD. And here it is the storage level, which we will understand later on what exactly does it mean. We can use different storage types. And this is the number of partitions it has created. So by default it always create 200. This is the fraction, how much fraction is stored, because our data frame was very small, so it has stored completely. But if executor memory becomes full, it will not be able to store 100%, so it can partially store it. And we can see the size also. So our data frame, it is only worth 6.4 KB only. And if we use another storage level which stores something on disk, then that is what we will see here. So some more options we will see all these in more detail. But what I want to convey here is that in the storage, we can see the RDDs or data frames which are stored, how much percentage stored, what is their total size. These kind of things we can see here. Next, going to the environment tab, we can see different properties or environment variables. So these are some runtime environment or variables, like what is the Java version, what is the Scala version, where exactly I have installed Java in my local, because this is my local. We can see some different Spark properties also. So if we set up any custom Spark properties, which we will understand later on more, so those also will be reflecting here. Like that, we can see so many properties. So the main important one can be Spark properties. Whenever we see set something, we can check if that is set up properly or not. In the next tab, we can see the executors, and this is where it will show all the executors. And currently I'm running in my local, so it is showing only one, and that is also driver, not the executor. It is running in the single node mode. And if we have multiple executors, so we will see multiple rows here. And for each of the executor or driver, we will see what is the storage memory that is there, how much disk is used, how many CPU cores are there, how many tasks it has completed, and total tasks assigned, what was the input given, shuffling happened, and then like the thread dump, which will be the logs of the thread which are being executed there. So these kind of details we will see for each and every executor here. And this is where we will be able to see if any executor it is running fine, or something is let's say dead or not running properly, or like if its memory is becoming full. So those kind of details we can easily understand from this particular UI screen. And this SQL data frame part, this is something we already discussed. So this is how here we can see whatever queries we run in terms of SQL, we can run it through SQL or data frame. Both kind of things will be coming here. And one more thing I want to tell here, that is in terms of the task. Let's say if I open any of the job, then stage, and go to the task. So here we can see that any particular task, how much duration it is taking. So if we have a very long running job, then we can always come here and see first of all which job is taking a lot of time. Within that job, we can see what is the total, like how many tasks it has triggered, and overall which of the tasks are taking more time. So if we see that some tasks are taking longer, some are taking lesser, that means it is like the data is not distributed properly. Then we can use repartition, sorting, all the various techniques are there, which we will discuss in more detail later on. But this also can give pretty good idea if data is distributed properly or not. So these all things we can understand through Spark UI, and I hope you got some basic idea. And depending on our particular scenario, when we go through couple of examples, we run our own jobs, we see what is happening, then we can understand it more and more. And this is it has so much information that anybody, they can even do a PhD on it. But as a developer, we shall be knowing what all things are available, so that whenever a need comes or a job is taking so much time, we can come here, we can debug it, and then we can find the root cause and fix our problem. So that's what I wanted to explain here. Thank you. Bye bye.